and welcome to my mother's stash. My name is Dawn, and I'm your host, and this is my mother's stash. In my last video, I was in Denmark, and I talked about how I improvise a top-down raglan, and how I calculate all the things that go into that top-down raglan. I didn't get very many views, but if you're interested, you can go back and see how I do that. I'm done with that now, and I'll be talking about that later. Then the next day, while I was in Denmark, I went yarn shopping, and I recorded a lot of footage from that. Let me just have a bit of coffee. I recorded a lot of footage from that, and I've put together a small whatever you call it, I don't care, clip with that, and then I'm gonna put that in once I'm done talking about these little blah. Okay, once I'm done doing this introduction, I'll put in the footage from Denmark, and then I'll come back, and then I will talk about all the things that I recorded. Good job, Don. All the things that I have made this month. Let me just try to speak really slow, because apparently I don't word today, and that's fine. I will do a regular knitting podcast. Let me put on the footage from Denmark, and then I'll come back and talk about what I have done in a regular podcast manner afterwards. So my friend let me borrow her old Volkswagen Caravelle, and my daughter needed some cough drops because she got a cold. And I just been to Hobby and Søstrene Grenes here, because at the mall I went to get cough drops and some painkillers at the mall. And then on the way back from the mall to my friend's place, there are a few yarn stores. I'm just gonna stop by and see what they look like and what they have. I have this blue ball of yarn from my mom. I have 250 grams of this, and it's really lovely. It doesn't really show up on the screen very well, but it's kind of shining a little bit. I think it's sock yarn, but I have 250 grams of it. I was thinking if I could find something in a golden color. I looked in Hobby. They didn't have anything particularly that I really wanted. They had something in Søstrene Grenes, but it was a bit more beige than golden. So I'm just gonna look. It's not necessarily something I'm gonna buy, but if I find like 100 grams of the right yarn, I'll buy it. So that's the plan for now. Okay, so I've just been in Self-Made, which was literally on the other side of the mall, but I didn't realize that until I already sat in the car. And then I figured I might as well drive there. But I was about to skip it because I thought, it's just another big box store and they probably only have acrylics. And I walk in there and I'm really surprised. Like, first of all, they sell cardigan from Norway, and they also sell the Dusto alpaca, which is like 100% alpaca. And then they have their own brands and lots of like pure cotton, pure wool. Pretty good quality. Like, it's not luxury yarns, but it's okay quality. If I was in a Spanish yarn store, there would be 80% acrylics and a little bit of baby merino in a corner, right? And here it's like mostly natural yarns, and then some of it is also mixed with acrylics, which is really a pleasant surprise. When I used to live in Denmark, there was local yarn stores, and then there was Stuff of Steel, which was mostly a sewing store, and Self-Made is also a sewing store. They had a little bit of yarn, and it was mostly bad, not very good quality yarns. So that's why I'm so surprised about this. Yeah, so that was free, if we count Sysslerne Grenes too. So I'm gonna find the next on a map on the way to my friend's place, because I haven't moved. I'm still at the mall. So I'm gonna head west towards my friend's house. Bye. So the last 3 places I've been were not. Like, the first one didn't exist. It was closed. And the second one was basically an online store. It was open and I could go in and I could look. But it was it basically only had acrylic yarn and the same brands that I could buy in Spain. So it was like, okay, whatever, I could get that at home, maybe even cheaper, right? And then this last one didn't have any yarn. Like, you looked up yarn stores, and then I got this hobbywine.dk, and they didn't have any yarn. Like, why do you show up in a search for yarn stores then? Doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna look. I think there's one more before I get to my friend's place, and then I'm gonna give up for today. But I got free that I thought had nothing, that I thought were just big box stores that only had acrylics, and then the free that I thought would be local yarn stores did turn out to be nothing. So, you win some, you lose some.
This is perfect.
Okay, I just want to make a comment about that last place I was, because when I got in the car after I was at that last yarn store, I recorded, I thought I recorded a clip about how I didn't get to buy the yarn because she didn't accept credit cards. And as one thing you have to understand about Denmark is that um, everybody Denmark is basically a cashless society. So not being able to pay with a credit card is very, very unusual. Now, my husband had given me a wallet before we left for Denmark, and it's full of cash. I don't know why he has that cash, but it's probably because he's not been able to use it for years, and he's just had it in his wallet. So he gave me that wallet to so I could use the cash. And a couple of days earlier, we had been going on a train with my son, and I had this. It's called a travel card. It's like an Oyster card from London, but just for Denmark. And it had run out of money, and I couldn't check in to the train. And I asked my son, because he has the equivalent app on his phone because he lives in Denmark, if he could check us in, and then I would pay him. And then I say, I can just pay you in cash. And he was like, no, I don't want cash. I don't know what to use it for in Denmark. So please transfer the money to my card so I can, so I have the money. So I didn't bring the wallet with cash to go yard shopping because I wasn't expecting to pay in cash. And then this lady, she's like, you can just go to the supermarket across the street, and then you can take cash out if you buy an ice cream or a chocolate bar or something. But that is only true if you have a Danish credit card, which is called a Dankort. And I don't. I have a MasterCard, and you can't take cash out above the amount in a Danish supermarket on a MasterCard. So I told her I'll come back tomorrow because I have cash at home, and this was like 10 minutes from my friend's place. So I went back to my friend, and then I couldn't find a wallet, and I was looking. I spent the rest of the week looking for that wallet, not all of the time, obviously, but I was looking like almost every day for that wallet because I wanted to go back and buy that yarn, and I couldn't. I couldn't find it, and I didn't find it. I was actually preparing to tell my husband that it's lost. I don't know where I put it. And then when I packed my bags Friday morning, it was underneath my suitcase. And I thought, it's God's way, or whatever, the universe's way of telling me that I did not need that yarn, because I actually don't. I can buy it next year or whenever I want to make that sweater. And technically that yarn can be bought in Spain because it's I didn't choose one of the Danish yarns, that many Danish yarn that she had in her store, like Jejlholt Uldspinderi or something. I chose Goregeous, which is like from Sachenmauer, or some, like one of the big commercial sock yarn producers in Europe. So I can buy that yarn anywhere. But I will be coming back to that store because it was so cute. And the funny thing is that the owner is American. So I go to Denmark and I go looking for a yarn store, and the only local yarn store I find is in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, it was 5 minutes drive from my friend's house, and it was in the middle of nowhere because my friend lives in the middle of nowhere. and then there's this little American lady who owns this yarn store in the middle of nowhere in Denmark. It's really ironic, but that is where we are. Okay, so what am I wearing? I am wearing my only finished object this month, which is my garter stitch cardigan. And it ended up being very short, and that is for two reasons. First of all, I ran out of brown yarn. And then I decided I wanted to do this mosaic pattern on the sleeve and at the bottom. And then in order to make it all fit, I was like sort of knitting a little bit on one sleeve and then on the other and then on the bottom here. And let me just get back in focus. I have to be quite close to the camera. I need to figure out how that works. And then I tried it on. I had knit, like, I finished one sleeve and it was to here. And then I put it on, having knit this bottom pattern. And my daughter looked at me and she said, "It's really cute the way you have it there. And it actually makes your waist look way thinner because of the distance between the sweater and your waist. And I really like it on you." And honestly, you know what? If you have a 15-year-old tell you that your sweater's cute, maybe you should do what she says, because she's knows more about fashion than I do, that for sure. So that is my finished object. So it's made in Filcolana Viejita, I think it's called. The alpaca fleece from Filcolana. And I held it double and I knitted it on needles, 5mm needles. I have an I-cord going all the way around. Also bound off in I-cord. And oh yeah, when I got to split for the sleeves, I discovered something and I need to update. I'm just gonna go closer here again. I need to update, if you look here, I need to update the spreadsheet I have, because it I didn't account for row gauge. So when I had the sufficient, like, when I had the sufficient amount of stitches to go around the body, I didn't have the armhole depth that I needed, because the row gauge is very high. Is that how you call it? The row gauge is very high on this. I'm just gonna take this off because it's really hot here today. When it's garter stitch. So I needed to add more rows because it's the armhole depth was not far enough. So I continued to increase in the same pattern, while also adding more depth to get to the 25% armhole rows that I needed. And I will update the Excel spreadsheet, and everyone is welcome to ask for access to the spreadsheet, and I will make it available to anyone who asks. I don't really know how. I need your Gmail address or something, but we'll figure out how we get that. Anyway, so I added that so that I got to 25%. And then I had, of course, increased too much for the arms and the body. So I did rapid decreases on it to make it fit, which gave me like this gusset underneath the arm. And I made the I-cords continue underneath the arm, so the gusset looks like that. So that's that. Yes. I don't know if I have any more comments on that. It's too warm to wear in Spain now. I might be able to use it in the evenings, but right now it's like 30 degrees Celsius outside, and wearing wool is basically not an option in the daytime, at least not anymore. But I will be spending quite a lot of time in Denmark this year compared to what I have done the other years, because my son is graduating high school for the second time, because the Danish university system doesn't recognize the English A-level as a valid high school degree, so he had to take another high school degree. But then he was able to take a 1-year high school degree that's aimed at people who don't have a European high school degree or EU high school degree, because England is still in Europe, it's just not in the EU. And then my daughter is starting a school for performing arts in the fall. And so we're going to be there in June, and then we're also going to be there most of August. And then we have some friends who have their 21st wedding anniversary or something. And we're going to their party in the beginning of September. So we're going to spend most of August in Denmark, which is really nice. And spend a lot of time with our kids and stuff. And my son is starting university, and going to help him get settled with that. And my daughter in her new school, she's going to be in boarding school for a whole year, which is exciting and also a little scary. And we'll come home and have no kids at all at home. That's going to be weird. So we're going to spend a lot of time in Denmark this summer, and I always like summer nights in Denmark are quite chilly. So I have always had wool sweaters and wool socks to wear. So I'm not gonna not need wool in this summer. It's not Spain, it's Denmark. It's never really warm. So that was my finished projects. And then I actually have one more, and I don't think I talked about that last time. Well, in my last regular knitting podcast. But I finished my shawl. My rebelaje is called now. And I'll put the picture up. No, there. I'll put the picture here. This is a self-drafted pattern. And I was in my local knitting group. And the ladies said that they asked me, what's it called? And I was like, it doesn't have a name. And they were like, how can it not have a name? And I'm like, because it doesn't have a name. And they were like, why? And I said, well, because I made it. I designed it. And they were all quite amazed by that. But then they decided that since it's been made in Spain, it should have a Spanish name. And they called it rebalaje, which means it's like, it's overflow, but it is also like waves, silent waves, like licking the coast in the summer. Well, not only in the summer, but you know when those waves come in on the beach, on the sand, like the small ones, that. And I think that's really cute. And then I brought it to Denmark because I hadn't actually filmed it, and I wanted to make a reel with it, and that's the reel I have up here. And it's and I forgot it in Denmark. So here it is, and that's also done. I finished that on April 1st. Well, day before, I think. But I hadn't blocked it, and I hadn't woven in all the ends and stuff. So it wasn't completely done in that sense. So there is that. Okay, I haven't made any socks this month. First, I was very much in doubt about what I wanted to knit, and now I know what I want to knit, but there is only 4 days left of the month, and I can't finish a pair of socks in those 4 days. So I have decided to do something else. I think at some point during the summer, at least in July here in Spain, it's probably gonna get way too hot to sit with a sweater in my lap. And I am not going to knit a sweater then. And then I'm just gonna knit some extra socks or whatever. I'm going to finish this because I made this half of it in 2 days. And then I wasn't sure if it would pucker because it was puckering quite a lot. So I blocked it. Since it's superwash, it's sock yarn. It's superwash. So I thought it's gonna relax quite a lot when I block it. And I want to see if it still puckers when I blocked it. And it doesn't. So I'm I made this in 2 days a while ago, and I'm going to finish it in 4 days, 4 days. I don't know how many. And then I'm going to start my May socks and just continue. And then I'll make an extra pair of socks. Technically, on my Make 9, I have 3 pairs of socks. Or 4. 3 or 4. I don't remember exactly. But I've already made 3 pairs of socks this year. So I'm pretty good. I haven't made a pair in April. That's not going to happen. But I'll probably make 2 pairs in another month when it's too warm to sit with a whole sweater in my lap. So that's the plan here for now. And what else do we have? Yes, I started my vest, and that is a whole story in itself. Let me show you. Here. So this is the back of my vest. Let me just, I'm really bad at this mirroring thing. Okay. Okay. That was stuck in a whole lot of things. Here. This is my vest. And look at the color of that yarn. Isn't that amazing? So I colored the purple. Look at the difference here. This is my original. I don't know. In my last regular podcast, I made this swatch, and I didn't like the background color, so I decided to color it. And that's actually one of the big things I've done this month. And you can see in the background behind me, there's a lot of yarn hanging. That is yarn that I have dyed this month. And I'm going to go over that, but I'm also going to do a whole episode about yarn dyeing, because I've been going crazy with that. I made this swatch and decided I wanted to color the purple background color in to a deeper aubergine. And this is the result. You can't even see how amazing the colors are. There is sort of purple tones and pink tones and red tones, and I'm in love. It is amazing. I made it with quite a strong solution of purple and red on top of the purple yarn. So it has equal parts purple and red food coloring. And that's what made this. And some of the tones are almost black. And then there's like the purples and the reds, and I'm in love. And I'm completely gone mad over yarn dyeing. I'll turn off the camera and get the yarns down in a minute. But let me just talk about the vest. So I ended up buying the Vivian Högsbro vest from Yngling. And to be honest, her applied I-cord, it's not an applied I-cord. She has an integrated I-cord in the pattern, and I couldn't make it look good. I tried and I tried and I tried, and it didn't work for me. Okay. So the thing is that just like this jacket, right? When I wore it, you saw, let me just put it back on. I have this integrated I-cord here, right? And it's one color. Let me just get back in focus. Let me just get up there. Okay, it's one color, and it's integrated here, right? It runs all the way. But when I flip it over, it still looks neat, right? It's one color and it still looks pretty neat. It's not that neat here, but over here it is. Anyways, it still looks neat, right? And that's what I wanted for the vest too, because it does the same thing. But it's striped. So, and I don't like the striped I-cord thing, because it it looks messy. I did it on my dark matter cowl in January, and I didn't really like it, to be honest. Um, and I was hoping when I bought the pattern that it would have an integrated I-cord that I could use. Um, and it did, but I can't make it look neat. It still looks kind of messy on the back, and I didn't like it, and I'm not going to continue. So what I'm going to do with this is when I finish, I'm going to make an applied I-cord all the way. Also, I'm knitting this top down rather than bottom up. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I could not get gauge to save my life. Like, seriously, it was impossible for me to get gauge. And I love Henny Felgenberg's designs. I'm not really always sure that I love her pattern writing, to be honest. And the reason why I don't love her pattern writing, as far as I remember, there's 3 sizes. And let me show you. So this is the same yarn as this. This is Kauni yarn. It's from Finland. And so this is one I made last year. Let me just change sweaters here. I made this last year. And it didn't get gauge. What's this? Sewing thread. I didn't get gauge, and so I made size small, and still huge. And it's not really very customizable. It's huge. I'm thinking about I'm thinking about actually putting it in the washing machine and shrinking it on purpose. Because otherwise I might as well just take it apart, and I don't really want to do that. I don't feel like taking a whole sweater apart that I spent so much time knitting. So I think I would like to rewrite this pattern in a way that makes it possible to recalculate it based on your gauge or something kind of like it. And I think I would do that top down. And I'm going to do the same, and maybe not rewrite it, but at least make my own of this top down, so that I can get the gauge that I want. And I know that might sound silly, but that's what I want. So that is what I'm trying to do there, and that might take some time. I found a Russian pattern online, but it has been taken down, but I have seen it before, and I remember how they did it. And I don't know if it's been taken down of YouTube because of a copyright notice, because of Henny Felgenberg, because it's so close to Henny Felgenberg's design. I don't know, but that is what I intend to do with that vest. So that is what I'm going to do in May. Oh, I'm going to do one more thing. So another thing I dyed was some sock yarn of my mom's. And I'm gonna pull it out, have this here, and then I'm gonna put the picture of the old sock yarn there. This was really funny because I got really crazy with the yarn dyeing, actually, and I at one point I just went into the pantry and I pulled out the dessert kit thing. My husband has this box of things that he uses for making desserts. He's the dessert cake and candy maker in the house. So he has this box, and it's got gelatine and cream of tartar and all those kinds of things in there. And I looked for it to see if we had any food coloring, because I'd run out of food coloring. And then I found a bottle of green and a bottle of blue, and they were almost empty. And I just poured them in some hot water, and I let them soak. So I got all the colors out of the bottles. And then I took this. My friend came over, and we were talking while I was doing this. And she was like, and then I was like, I'm going to take this yarn because I think it's so ugly. And I want to see if I can make something pretty with it. And she was like, but what if it gets uglier? And I was like, but what if it doesn't? And she said, but what if it does? And then I just realized that who cares? Like, I wouldn't be able to figure out anything that I could use this yarn for because I really, really, really didn't like it. And if I could make it pretty, I could use it. And if I couldn't make it pretty, I would give it away or throw it away or whatever, because I wouldn't use it. So who cares? And now I got this. Look at that. The teal and the green and the greens and the turquoise. It's so good. And I think that when I finish the cow, I'm going to have quite a lot of this white left. Look at these two together. Or maybe I'll just make a pair of socks only with this. Then maybe this is just going to be like colorful socks. And then I think I'm going to make the toe and the heel in either this or this. I think this is just acrylic. And I don't know if I can use acrylic in socks. I think I can. I think it's more durable. I don't know. This is sock yarn, and I have used that before. But there's not enough to make toe, heel, and cuff out of this. So I don't know if I'm going to use this or this. But look at, wow. So those are going to be my May socks. And I'm just going to cut. And then I'm going to get my, the yarns I've colored. The rest of the yarns I have colored, dyed. And come back. Okay. So I did a lot of yarn dyeing this month. Over Easter I went quite mad with the yarn dyeing. And I think this might be like my new favorite, not my new favorite craft, because knitting is still my favorite craft, but oh my god. I love colors. I just saw Taylor Earle talk about embroidery on the Wool Needles Hand podcast, and I feel the same way about colors as she's said. Like, colors just make me happy, and at the same time, I usually prefer to wear neutral colors in my clothes. I prefer to knit colorful things, which is kind of stupid because then I end up not using it. And because colors just make me happy. I have a drawing suitcase full of crayons and pencils and stuff, and they are organized in the color of the rainbow. I'm quite a messy person, but my colored pencils, my kids have been taught from they were very small that they're not allowed to use my colored pencil unless they put them back in rainbow order, because that's just how it has to be, and I can't start drawing until they're organized that way. That's just how it has to be when I draw. And just opening the suitcase and looking at the colors laid out there in order makes me so happy. So I made this actually like mini skein set. So took this purple, that's the original purple, and I started out trying to dye it just with a little bit of red, and this is the result of that. And I like that one a lot more, but it's a lot like the colors that I wanted to contrast it with, right? So it's very close to that. Then I added more red to try to make it darker, but it just got basically more red, not very dark. So that's this one. So this has the double amount of red to that one. And then I added some purple. And that's this. And I have 2 parts purple and 2 parts red in here. So this has the same amount of red as that one. This one has the same amount of red as that one. And then it's the same amount of purple as that one. It has red. As that one has red, this one has the same amount of purple. So 2 parts purple, 2 parts red. And I wanted it to be a little bit darker because this is what I was going to contrast it with. And I felt that the contrast wasn't big enough. And it was a little... I mean, I love it. It's pretty. But I felt like it needed to be a little darker. So this one is 3 parts purple. What is it? Here. 3 parts purple and 3 parts red. And now... this one pops, right? It's really pretty. And that is what I have done here. So, that was the purple. Then I had an orange and a yellow that my mother-in-law bought me many, many years ago and that I haven't used. And I'm going to put up some pictures there. And I realize now that when I'm looking at the pictures, I'm like, yeah, they're pretty. I like them when I look at the pictures, but I would never wear it. I don't know what I would use it for. I have no idea what I would do with them. So I dyed them. And I started out with the yellow. And actually, I dyed it with the purple. Here. And it became very dark and sort of brownish. And then I took away some of the purple. I took it half as much. And I did... like, you can't see the difference here. So, here. So, this is, okay, so I made a 2.5 milliliter to 1 deciliter solution of purple, and then I got that brownish. I don't remember, it's 1 gram, I think. I don't remember exactly how many grams. And then I took 1 milliliter of that and added into sufficient water, 1 milliliter per gram, I think. Yes, 1 milliliter per gram of yarn of that solution here. Then I took the next one, I did twice as much yarn to the same amount of dye. So that's the color difference between 1 milliliter per gram and 0.5 milliliter per gram. You can see the brown and the more like straw color. And then I went 1 step further. So this is twice as much yarn again. 1 milliliter, no, quarter milliliter. This is 1/4 milliliter of dye solution per gram of yarn. Okay, so this is what I ended up doing here. Except I don't know exactly what happened here. It turned a little more green. I don't know. It doesn't look that green on the screen, but turn a little bit more green. This is I definitely like this more than I like the yellow, the original yellow. But the best part is the orange, because I did not like the orange. It was a 70s very very bright orange, and I didn't like it. And I started out by adding red and purple to it. And I got this. Well, actually, I started out, I don't have that set. I have it. Just a sec. It's here. So I started out by just adding red. And then it got more so. Like, it's a lot. And I would never wear this. Like, never. So I added a bit of purple to the red. And I got this. And this is sort of a fall rusty orange. And that I like, but I wanted it deeper. And then I made this, which is a rust red. And that I like a lot. So that's, and I don't remember the quantities, so I can't recreate this. But also, I don't have this yarn anymore. I think it's from Jarholt's Uldspinneri, but I'm not sure. I got the yarn like 18 years ago from my mother-in-law, so it's like I have no idea. I lost the labels. I've lost everything. I think it's from Jarholt's Uldspinneri, but I'm not sure. It's a very rustic yarn. But now that I have this entire like mini set with how many? I have 5 purples and 4 orange reds. I think I'm going to do something with this together, because if I hold it up like this, it's almost a fade, right? Like I can do something with this. So my camera got too hot, and I also needed to do some other things. No, so I think I will enjoy yarn dyeing in the future, and I might buy some jacquard colors. But I'll try to make an episode about yarn dyeing at some point. I also might want to continue to do some experimenting with some of the yarns I have and figure out which ones would work for me and which would not. Okay, so the last part is acquisitions, and since I'm a dashing podcast, I don't usually or shouldn't have acquisitions. But in February, I bought some yarn, as I have said here on the pod, and I got it home. I got it. My friend had it in her freezer when I got there, and it is this. At first, I was a little disappointed. It wasn't as soft as I thought it would be, being cashmere merino. I love the color, but I wasn't really sure about how soft it was. So, but then I made a swatch for my husband's sweater. I don't really have it here. I don't really know where I put it. And the sailor's sweater that I was planning to make is not gonna happen, because it is the bubbles on it was not working. So this is a secret, and I hope he doesn't watch the pod because I'm making him a birthday present, and I'm gonna make it Gansey. And so this is another working progress that I only work on when I'm not home. I hope he can't hear me. He's sitting in his office on the other side of the yard. I'm not really sure about this because it feels a bit big. Honestly, he's quite small, like girth wise. And I'm not really sure. I need to measure it or pre-block it or something. So I'm making a Gansey from a book I have. I keep pointing in the wrong direction. I'm going to put a book here, the book cover. So this can be another from a book now. So owning it on it when I'm not home, and I want to be done in September. And it would be the first ever sweater I ever made for him because I'm deciding to break my mother's boyfriend sweater curse. And I need to tell this story. I just need to sneeze first, so let me just stop the recording and start again. Back. Sneezing. My mother made my father a Setesdal Jense, and then they got divorced, and she never finished it. And then she made it for my stepdad, who does the same yarn. I'm like, that yarn is cursed, right? And then they got divorced. And when she died, I found a sweater that she had made for her boyfriend that she never finished. And she had never made a sweater for him ever before. And I asked him, do you want me to finish this? And he was like, you could. I guess he's a very polite man. And I was like, okay, do you like it? And he was like, not really. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to finish it then. So I took it apart and I'm making something for myself in it. It's in the same alpaca yarn that I made my lost for words again, my raglan cardigan in. But because it's gray, it was stranded and it was gray and red, and those two colors don't really go together. There's something. My mom was not very good at colors. She was not very good at combining colors in a way that looked good, and those two colors do not look good together. And before I took it apart, I consulted quite a few of my friends, and I'm like, could I turn this in, because the sweater was done. She just needed to steek it, and then it was done. And I asked several of my friends, could I turn this into something that could work? Like, could I make it, because my mom's boyfriend was the same size as my husband, could I make it work for my husband? And everyone was like, those colors are not good together. It is not pretty sweater. So I took it apart. So there is a sweater quantity of yarn, but in two colors that don't really go together. But I think I have some leftover of the teal from the brown cardigan, and I have some other. I could use the gray in a gradient because I have some light turquoise, gray, teal. I have some light purple and dark purple, and I could make a gradient with those 5 colors, and then I would have enough for at least a smallish sweater for me. And then the red could be a t-shirt or something. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that. But that's future me to decide. So, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, sweater course. So my mom has never really managed to finish a sweater for a husband. So I am dead set on breaking the sweater curse, and I'm going to make this for my husband, but I'm not going to tell him until I'm done. So there's that. We have been together we have been married for 18 years, and we have been together for over 20. Um, so I think I can feel safe to say that we're not going to get divorced anytime soon. Okay. So I didn't get any yarn while in Denmark except for this, because I didn't have any money the day I was at the yarn store. But I did. I was in Hobby, and I got these. And they are cable needles. I don't know. I think it's just Hobby's own brand. They're really cute. I also use them as shawl pins, and in that in a cardigan, I use this one as to close it, and it's really cute, I think. But also for cable needles, because they just hang. I don't really like regular cable needles, but these are really neat, and I really like them. So I got those, and then I got, aside from my daughter's cough medication, one of my reasons for going to Hobby was to buy a cable, because I had gotten really tired of the regular cables on the Knit Pro needles, and I have almost an entire set of Knit Pro needles. Actually, I have more than so I have a set from going from 3.5 millimeters up to 6 millimeters. And I have several different of those, because those are the sizes I use most. But I was really tired of the cables. And this cable is the 360 swirl thing, and it's a memory-free cable. And I was really, really close to buying Chow Goose because I was so tired of the cables on the Knit Pros. So now I just have to replace my cables rather than replacing everything, because I'm so happy with this new cable. It's amazing. So now I don't need to buy Chow Goose. I know a lot of people are really dissatisfied with the tips, the thinner tips on Knit Pros. In the wooden ones, break really easily, and I had problems with that. But I buy the carbons now, and they don't break. The only problem I have with this is that I can't get, like, the really thin 2.5 millimeters and 2 millimeters. I can't get them in exchangeable. I might buy a Chow Goose set for socks, but that's the only thing I would do right now, at least. So that's what I bought in Hobby. And then the last thing is not really, well, it is an acquisition, but it's a swap. So my friend Michelle, I might actually bring her on the pod one day, because she's my best knitting friend down here in Spain. And one of the reasons why I started knitting again. When I moved to Spain from Denmark, I had a really hard time finding knitting friends. And I got away from knitting because I needed community. I used to have my friend Irene in Denmark. What am I? And we met up once a week, and we would knit, and we would talk, and then I would continue knitting throughout the week, and then we would meet up next week. And I need community around my knitting, otherwise I don't have any reason for knitting. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make the podcast, is because I want to be part of a community. But I'm not getting very many views, so I don't know if it's working. But let's see. Anyway, so the day that we were dying, my Michelle and I, we were looking through all of my yarn, and I have this box that I just called Red Brown Thin, and it has some cognac colored silk merino that I might make a t-shirt in this summer. It had some it has some orange and some yellow that I was thinking of dyeing, and I'm still thinking of dyeing that. And then it had 250 grams of cotton linen from designclub.dk in a red that was kind of a dusty, I can't exactly describe it. It was a kind of a dusty red. And Michelle was like, "Oh my god, that's so pretty." And I was like, I don't really like the red, and I don't really like knitting with linen. It's too hard on my hands. So Michelle was like, "I'll swap you." And then we didn't talk about it anymore. And then I said, "Did you find something you would swap me with?" And then like a couple of weeks later, and she was like, "Well, I don't really have anything where I have 250 grams of it that I would swap with." And then I said, "It doesn't have to be 250 grams. Just bring me what you would like to swap, and then we'll see. We go from there." So she bought me 3 different options. One was like a salmon colored pink that I really like, but I have no idea what to use it for, because pink and me, I look like a pig if I wear pink. Like, seriously, my skin goes so red if I wear pink. So I can't do that. And what else? Then there was another one. My daughter was really in love with that. So I might ask Michelle later on, like at some point, maybe I can buy it from her, because that was really pretty and my daughter really liked it and she would like to wear it. It was like orange and something else. I also liked it, but it was not the one I fell in love with. This was the one I fell in love with. It is Manos de Uruguay, Alegría. It's fingering weight. It's sock yarn. I'm not going to use it for sock yarn. It is all my favorite colors. Okay. So, I I am having a lot of challenges with regards to my my technical equipment. And right now I'm testing if I can make it work with my phone, because I have an old Nikon camera that I have been using because it wasn't working with my phone. But it keeps getting too hot, and it's 30 degrees now, and in a month it's going to be 40. So that's not really working for me. So I had gone over all of my acquisitions, I think, and all of the things I have been doing and what I'm gonna do in the next month. And I think I'm done for now. So if you have any questions, comments, objections, whatever, put them down below and let me know. I would love to hear from you. Thank you, and see you next time.